When life feels complicated, there are moments in life when everything feels heavy, not because one thing is wrong, but because too many things demand our attention at once. The mind becomes crowded. Thoughts overlap, worries multiply, and suddenly, life feels far more complicated than it truly is. Stoicism teaches us that complexity is often not found in events themselves, but in the stories we attach to them. Life, by its nature, is simple. It unfolds one moment at a time. One breath, one decision, one action. Yet we insist on living in many moments at once. We carry yesterday's regrets, tomorrow's fears, and today's responsibilities, all on the same fragile shoulders. When life feels complicated, the Stoic does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, he asks, "What is within my control right now?" Because clarity begins there. The Stoics understood something most people forget. We do not control outcomes. We do not control other people, and we do not control the world's endless changes. What we do control is our judgment, aware response, our inner posture toward whatever stands before us. Much of our suffering comes from fighting reality. We want things to be different. We want people to behave according to our expectations. We want certainty in an uncertain world. But reality does not negotiate. It does not pause to explain itself. It simply is. The moment we stop demanding that life makes sense on our terms, something powerful happens. The noise begins to fade. When life feels complicated, it is often because we are trying to carry too much, too many opinions, too many desires, too many unnecessary battles. The Stoic path is not about adding more knowledge, but about removing excess. Ask yourself, what truly matters, and what only feels urgent because my emotions say so. Most problems lose their weight when stripped of imagination and fear. What remains is usually manageable, sometimes even simple. The Stoics believed that life is not meant to be easy, but it is meant to be endured with dignity. Difficulty is not a punishment. It is a training ground. Just as fire tempers steel, hardship tempers character. When life feels complicated, it is inviting you to simplify your values, to choose virtue over comfort, reason over impulse, calm over chaos. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means not letting emotion rule the mind. You can feel overwhelmed without becoming overwhelmed. You can acknowledge pain without allowing it to define you. One of the greatest Stoic insights is this: most of what exhausts us is not what we are doing, but what we are thinking. We imagine worst-case scenarios. We replay conversations that no longer exist. We worry about futures that may never arrive. The mind becomes a battlefield of imagined disasters. The Stoic response is simple, but not easy. Return to the present. What is required of you right now, not tomorrow, not next year. Now. Often, the answer is surprisingly small. One task, one decision, one step forward. Life only feels complicated when we demand answers for questions that do not yet need to be asked. When life feels complicated, remember that confusion is not failure. Confusion is a sign that you are thinking deeply, that you are searching for meaning, that you refuse to live unconsciously. But do not confuse thinking with wisdom. Wisdom lies in knowing when to stop thinking and start accepting. Acceptance is not weakness. It is clarity. To accept what you cannot change is to free energy for what you can. The Stoics did not seek control over life, but harmony with it. You are not required to understand everything. You are only required to act with integrity in what you do understand. Life does not come with a complete map. It reveals itself step by step. Trying to see the entire path at once will only exhaust you. Walk the part that is visible. Trust that clarity follows action. When life feels complicated, strip it down to its core. Are you acting with honesty, with courage, with self-respect? If the answer is yes, then you are already doing enough. External success is uncertain. Inner stability is not. No amount of chaos outside can disturb a mind that refuses to surrender its peace. In the end, life is not asking you to solve it. It is asking you to live it. With presence, with restraint. With quiet strength, complexity fades when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and focus on becoming unshakable within. And that is the true Stoic freedom. Even the strongest minds experience moments of doubt. Stoicism does not deny this. It prepares you for it. When life feels complicated, the Stoic does not pretend to be invincible. He accepts his limits without surrendering his principles. There will be days when clarity feels distant. Days when decisions feel heavier than usual. Days when the path forward seems hidden by fog. In those moments, strength is not found in rushing forward blindly, but in standing still with composure. Stillness is not stagnation. It is alignment. A calm mind sees what a restless mind cannot. The Stoics remind us that life is not a straight line. It is a series of tests, pauses, and recalibrations. When life feels complicated, it is often because we are at a point of transformation. Old identities no longer fit. Old goals lose their meaning. Old beliefs begin to crack. This discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is changing. Growth often feels like confusion before it feels like clarity. Many people mistake complexity for importance. They believe that a complicated life is a meaningful one. But meaning does not come from how busy you are or how many problems you juggle at once. Meaning comes from how consciously you live. A simple life lived with awareness is more powerful than a complex life lived on autopilot. The Stoic seeks depth, not noise. Purpose, not distraction. When life feels complicated, observe how much of that complexity is self-created. We attach our identity to outcomes. We measure our worth by approval. We allow external events to dictate our inner state. The Stoic cuts these chains deliberately. You are not your success. You are not your failures. You are not the opinions of others. You are the one who chooses how to meet each moment, and that choice is always available. The world will not slow down for your clarity. It will continue to demand, distract, and overwhelm. Stoicism does not ask you to escape the world, but to move through it without losing yourself, to act without attachment, to care without dependency, to strive without anxiety. This balance is difficult, but it is what separates a reactive life from a disciplined one. When life feels complicated, return to discipline. Discipline of thought, discipline of action, discipline of desire. Ask yourself, is this thought useful? Is this action necessary? Is this desire aligned with who I want to become? Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves obedience. Not every struggle deserves your energy. Choose wisely. The Stoics believe that peace is not found in avoidance, but in preparedness. Prepare your mind to face loss without collapse, change without panic, uncertainty without despair. This preparation does not make you cold. It makes you resilient. You still feel deeply, but you are no longer ruled by feeling. You experience life fully without being consumed by it. When life feels complicated, remember that time is always moving forward. This moment will pass. This confusion will shift. This weight will not remain forever. Impermanence is not something to fear. It is something to rely on, just as pain fades. So, dos is. The Stoic remains steady in both. You are allowed to slow down, to simplify, to choose less. Not everything requires your reaction. Not everything requires your explanation. Not everything requires your involvement. Sometimes the most Stoic act is to thee nothing and let the unnecessary fall away. In the quiet that follows, you may realize something important. Life was never as complicated as it felt. It was your resistance that made it. So, release the resistance, and what remains is manageable. Release the illusion of control, and what remains is freedom. And so, when life feels complicated, do not ask for an easier life. Ask for a stronger mind, a clearer judgment, a steadier character, because the world will always be uncertain, but you do not have to be. This is the Stoic way, not to escape complexity, but to stand unshaken within it. Eventually, you will understand something simple yet profound. Life does not become clearer by force. It becomes clearer through patience. When life feels complicated, the urge is to rush toward answers, to resolve everything at once, to regain control as quickly as possible. But wisdom moves at a slower pace. It waits. It observes. It acts only when action is necessary. The Stoic understands that clarity often arises after endurance, not before. Italiano. There is dignity in remaining composed, while the mind searches for understanding. You do not need to panic, because you do not yet see the full picture. No human ever does. All that is required is that you remain faithful to reason, while uncertainty does its work. When life feels complicated, you may feel isolated in your struggle. But remember this: every human who has lived thoughtfully has stood where you stand now. Confusion is not unique to you. It is the price of awareness. The Stoics wrote not because they had easy lives, but because they had difficult ones, and refused to be broken by them. Their words remain because their discipline endured. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not lost. You are learning how to live deliberately in a world that rewards distraction. This is not weakness. It is courage. Most people avoid reflection because it exposes complexity. You face Italiano, and that alone sets you apart. When life feels complicated, measure progress differently. Not by speed, but by stability. Not by certainty, but by composure. Not by how much you control, but by how little controls you. True progress is invisible to the impatient eye. It appears in restraint, in calm responses, in choices made quietly, without the need for applause. One day, you will look back and realize that this period of complexity shaped your inner strength more than any period of ease ever could. You will see that the confusion forced you to refine your values, that the pressure taught you where your foundation truly lies. And you will be grateful that life did not simplify itself for you, because you learned to simplify yourself. The Stoic does not wish for fewer storms. He builds a stronger ship. He does not demand calm seas. He learns how to navigate. And when life feels complicated, remembers. The storm is not inside the world. It is inside the judgment. Change the judgment, and the storm loses its power. So stand where you are. Breathe. Observe. Do not rush to escape complexity. Let it teach you. Do not curse uncertainty. Let it sharpen you. Do not fear the weight you carry. It is building the strength you will need in the end. Life is not asking you to understand everything. It is asking you to remain steady while understanding arrives. And when it does, you will realize life was never meant to be simple. It was meant to be lived with wisdom. That is enough. And even after wisdom arrives, life will test it again. Stoicism is not a destination. It is a daily practice. There will be new complications, new uncertainties, new moments where the mind feels crowded once more. This does not mean you have failed. It means you are alive. The Stoic does not expect permanent calm. He expects impermanence and trains himself to meet it with balance. When life feels complicated again, you will recognize the pattern. You will notice how the mind tries to rush, to label everything as urgent, to demand immediate resolution. And this time, you will pause. Not because the problem disappeared, but because you learned that urgency is often an illusion. Very few things require panic. Very few decisions demand haste. Most require patience and clarity. You begin to understand that simplicity is not found by removing responsibility, but by removing illusion. The illusion that everything must be perfect. The illusion that you must be certain. The illusion that you must please everyone. The Stoic abandons these illusions willingly. He chooses honesty over comfort, consistency over intensity, character over appearance. When life feels complicated, return to first principles. What kind of person do I choose to be in this moment? In this moment, not when things are easy, not when answers are clear, but now. Virtue does not wait for clarity. It acts regardless of confusion. Courage exists even in doubt. Wisdom exists even in uncertainty. Temperance exists even in desire. Slowly, almost quietly, you notice something changing. Your reactions soften. Your thoughts become fewer, but sharper. Your attention returns to what matters. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop fighting battles that lead nowhere. You stop confusing movement with progress. This is not withdrawal. It is refinement. When life feels complicated, others may not understand your calm. They may mistake your restraint for indifference, your silence for weakness, your patience for delay. Let them. The Stoic does not live for validation. He lives for alignment. To be in harmony with reason is worth more than being admired. Eventually, complexity loses its power, not because it disappears, but because you no longer fear it. You see it for what it is, a passing arrangement of circumstances, temporary, impersonal. Impersonal. Neutral, it is neither good nor bad until judgment gives it meaning. And judgment is yours. So when life feels complicated, stand firm, not rigid, not defensive, but grounded like stone shaped by time. You remain steady because you have learned what truly cannot be taken from you. Your character, your judgment, your choice. This is the quiet strength of Stoicism. Not loud, not dramatic, not performative, but enduring. And when the world feels heavy again, you will remember, I do not need life to be simpler. I need my mind to be clearer. And that is always within reach. When life feels complicated, do not search for escape. Search for steadiness. The world will continue to change. Problems will rise and fall. Certainty will remain rare. But a disciplined mind needs none of these to stand firm. You were never meant to control life. You were meant to master yourself. And in that mastery, complexity loses its hold. Remain calm. Remain deliberate. Remain unsaken. That is enough. That is enough